Linh-chan and Dimi-chan, write code. So right here, before we do all of that, we are going to just make some temporary variables because we're going to be working inside of another queue, so we don't necessarily want to access things directly that can change. So let's grab the source rect, cg rect, destination rect equals destination rect, bool should crop source equals crop source. So the greenish ones right here are my properties, and these are going to be my local variables that I'm going to use. And now some quick little calculations. So how much I'm scaling it horizontally. Horizontal scale. So this is the ratio between the destination rect and the crop rect. So I'm going to grab .size.width divided by crop.size.width. And I'm going to do the same for the vertical. And then this is going to be height, as you guessed. I need the aspect ratio as well. I'm going to need ratio, which is going to be the ratio between the horizontal scale and vertical scale. And then I need to make some transformations, lots of math. So when they teach you math in school, sometimes they concentrate a bit on geometry. This is all geometry. So if you can handle like moving a point around, this is what we're doing basically. A CG affine transform. So anything you do in like Euclidean space is called an affine transformation. And we're gonna make a translation, and translation means you're moving it. So we're gonna move everything by x coordinates to the left by the crop coordinates. So if we crop within frame, so if this were our video frame, for instance, and we want to crop this area right here, we're going to get the x and the y, and we're going to move this frame that's right here to this point. So that's what this transformation is doing. Dot origin dot x, so that's why we're going in the negative direction. Dot crop rect dot origin dot y, and then we're going to do a translation b, which is basically we're going to move it back from here back to where we want the destination. So this one is going to be in the positive direction. This destination rect origin dot x dot origin dot y, and finally we want to reference our background color. So CI, we're going to use core image to do most of the transformations because it's convenient. You don't have to use core image. You can manipulate pixels yourself if you want. I don't like doing that, so core image it is. CI image, image with color, and then we need a CI color. Lots of converting between different things.
Did you mean to say background there, or is that?
Yeah, I'll get to that. Sorry. Color with CG color, and since we have a NS color, we need to convert that. Background color dot CG color. Okay, that should give us a CI color. Background. There we go. We need a variable to hold our video composition, which I forgot to add. I believe right here. You see, I left some space.
Without knowing.
Well, I knew I was going to be adding it later. I just didn't know I was going to be adding it now. So this is going to be our video composition. So a composition is basically a list of instructions that is going to describe how we want our video to be. So since we're resizing it, we're giving instructions. So that's our composition. And instead of an asset reader track output, we're going to be using an asset reader, you guessed it, video composition output. Yeah. So back to where we were. We're going to now declare what our video composition is. So AV mutable video composition, and we're going to be making a composition with core image. So video composition with properties of assets, so self.asset, and then applying the core image filters. So every frame of the video, we're going to be doing these things. So we can do different things at different frames, which is cool, but we're just doing it uniformly across the whole video. So just in case we have an error, let's make an error equals nil, because we can report an error if there was one. Image. So now we're going to make a filtered. So we're calling it filtered because core image typically deals with filters, even though we're not like doing like a Instagram type filter. We could. This allows us to, but we're not interested in that really. We're just interested in resizing everything. So we're going to get the original image, which is going to be the original unaltered frame. So request dot source image. And then we're going to check if we should crop it. So if we should crop the source, we're going to say that our new image, so continuing to use filtered each time. So we're going to say filtered, which currently represents our source frame. We're going to say, okay, crop it, image by cropping to rect, and we're going to pass our crop rect. And that's going to cut off the ugly edges. So in the case of our Pikmin file, you'll remember that we have these letter boxes on the left, and then we have this 1 pixel at the bottom. So we want to get rid of that completely. So we're going to crop it out. Next, we're going to, again, overriding our filtered. So now filtered contains the cropped image, but only if we should crop it. These are settings that we can make a user interface for later. We are going to apply our first transformation. So image by applying transform, translation A. So translation A is going to do is it's going to move this 1 pixel high and 40 pixel to the left. It's going to move it to this point right here, which is the origin. So then when we scale it, it'll scale from this point and not from this point. If we don't do that, when we resize this afterwards, it's going to resize this border as well, which we don't want. So we're going to move it in the negative direction. Remember, we put those minuses there. Then we are going to add our background. So because we cropped it, we now are going to end up with a green ugly background. So we want to make sure it's set back to black or whatever other color people set. So image by compositing over image. So we set up our background image right here. Now we're going to scale it, so we're going to resize it. So we want it to be an HD image, so we're going to say filtered. Filter. Oh, that ended up really weird. Filtered image by applying. So it's basically putting a bunch of building blocks together. So now we're going to use a custom filter, or not a built-in filter, but something a little more complicated. So this is called a LancosScaleTransform. Lanczos. Lanczos. LancosScaleTransform. And it's essentially a high quality resize, which preserves things like contrast without just making everything pixely. Unfortunately, the game footage is aliased, which means it has lots of like pixel edges. So the Lanczos transform is actually going to preserve that because it thinks it's part of the original image. But if you started with like an actual photo, it will do a fairly good job at resizing it without making it look like you're losing quality. And it like sharpens it a tiny bit, things like that. And then here we can specify so since we are using a custom filter, we need to specify what all the inputs are. When we do these things, it's kind of doing it for us. So the first key is KCI input image key, and we're going to pass our filtered, and that's our filtered image. Now we're going to specify KCI input scale, so how much we want to grow it by. So we calculated this before, and we're going to use our vertical scale because we're going to grow the height. And then we need to also specify the aspect ratio. So KCI input aspect ratio. And the aspect ratio is going to let us independently change the width and the height. So if you remember, our Pikmin video is kind of like we lost all this, and we want to grow it out. So that way we want this to be here and this to be here. We want to stretch it essentially to make it look widescreen again as it shows up on the TV. So
wouldn't it distort the video?
It will, but this is distorted.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, what we want is actually this.
Okay.
So you see how it's in that stretch now, and this is actually a circle. Before it wasn't a circle. Right here it's an oval.
And there's really nothing that you can do about it besides writing this program?
Nothing easy. So I could buy Final Cut Pro, but that's not easy, okay. Is it? So, yeah, this since I know how to program, this is a very easy way to solve this problem. Luckily, because I've worked with AV Foundation before, so I kind of know where I'm going and I don't get completely lost. But that's where this video can come in hand to help others, I feel like. And to give you an insight onto how developers work in reality.
It's boring stuff, not like how it is
yeah,
in movies.
It's definitely not like a movie. Where they just like
push a few buttons and then a few keys and then
enter.
Everything works.
Compile.
Yeah.
I think I wrote pissed off by accident. So finally, we scaled it. Now we want to move it back. So what we did, like as a refresh, so we moved this point to this origin. We grew the whole thing so that way it takes up the whole frame. And now we want to reposition it. So if we said we want the video to be like smaller, in fact, just in the middle because we want to add a border or something like that, we now want to move it back to the destination. So that's where this final translation is going to be used. So we did a translation A and a translation B. This is the translation B. So image by applying transform, translation B, and this is going to move it back, basically. So that's all the instructions that we're going to use. Actually, no. I lied. We now need to tell the system that, hey, this is our final image. Otherwise, it's going to be like, did you finish with that task I asked you to do last week? And you're going to be like, crickets. And it's just going to wait because it's not a manager and it doesn't know what's happening until the user says force quit, and then it just gives up. So we are now going to tell the system that, hey, here's our new filtered image. We don't need to specify context. It actually tells you give it nil if you don't know what you're doing. So we're just going to give it nil. We can specify context if we're working with OpenGL directly, but chances are if we're just doing stuff like this, it's fine. And then if there was an error, in this case we don't, but we can set it up so that way in the future we are good. We'll give back the error instead of an image. And finally, so we can take the video composition and we can say our original was standard definition, but we actually want like HD. So let's go ahead and make a new size that's going to represent an HD image. So here we're going to get our frame width and our frame height that a user interface could specify. And we're going to tell the video system to go ahead and use that to do everything. And trying to see if I need the rest of this. No, I don't think I do. Cool, I can skip that part. We did take a shortcut before when we were specifying the width and the height. So this should be self.filter frame width, and this should be self.frame height. And we do want to specify to use our new video composition. Otherwise, it's not going to do anything, right? So our AV video output is not a track output anymore. It's a video composition track output. And then we are going to, it has a different constructor. So we are going to get the asset reader video composition output with video tracks. So now we're taking multiple tracks because we can use multiple tracks if we wanted. So that's cool, even though we don't use them. And we are going to use our decompression settings. And we are going to specify our video composition here. And now it knows, okay, I'm going to use this video composition that the programmer made, and it's going to follow our instructions that we made right here for every frame and change the video essentially. And I believe that is all of it. So we do need to specify some defaults. So for the Pikmin video, for instance, we can go ahead and use some defaults that I already calculated out. So for example, we want, this is stuff that you should set up in a user interface that I did not because this was mostly for me, but if there is interest in an app like this, I will like flesh it out and make an actual app that people can download from the Mac App Store and use for their own projects. I'll probably charge $5 for it to kind of support the channel, but you can copy all the code that we spent the past 3 hours writing and write one yourself if you don't want to pay $5. And in the end, you'll learn. So I guess that's good. So we want the final frame to be 1080, 1920 by 1080. So we're upgrading this to HD basically, 1920. We want the source rect to be in the standard definition coordinates. So I calculated this out to be, I believe, here, CG rect make. Okay, it is 40 pixels to the left, 1 pixel from the bottom, and then it is 639 pixels wide and 479 pixels tall because we cut off 1 from the bottom. So the original was 680 by 480, I believe. No, 720 by 480. So we're cutting that down so that way we don't get these black bars, and then we're going to resize it to a full HD frame, and then we're going to add new black bars because it's not complete widescreen, it's still 3:2 instead of 16:9. And we want it to look proper. I don't know if Pikmin was actually in widescreen, it's just that's what it looks like on our TV. So that's what we want it to look like when we put episodes out, right? So that's our source rect. Now let's calculate a quick center of the frame because we want to center it. So CG float width or height equals 1080. CG float width is going to equal, so 1.5 times 1080, or 1.5 times height. Let's use variables. We have variables, let's use them. So basically what we're saying is we want the destination to be we're going to center it later, but we want the destination size to be 3:2. So 1.5 times this way and 1 times this way. If you multiply everything by 2, it's 3 this way and 2 this way. That's kind of like the enhanced definition widescreen from the era. Pikmin is 15 years old.
Yeah.
So they didn't have 1920 by 1080 back then. Or maybe they did, but it was just in a lab. Just kind of like why we have like 8K here, but it's, again, just in a lab. So let's set our destination rect. And we will say CG rect make. So this time we are going to center horizontally. So we want our job.frame width minus the width that we calculated above. So it's 1.5 times 19 by 1080 divided by 2. So this will give you the center within a larger frame. So this is the larger number, the smaller number, and we want to center it basically. So we'll do the same thing for the y coordinate. So frame height, here we're going to end up at 0. So if you do a quick calculation, frame height is 1080, height is 1080, so 0 divided by 2 is 0, so we're not going to move it at all, essentially. Here we're going to specify the width, and here the height. And then finally, we want to crop out the ugly pixels. Crop source, so it's not like a perfect black, so we want to get rid of it. And then we want to specify the background to be perfect black. Background color equals NS color black. To prove to you that this will all work, we can change it to pink later. So let's give this a try. Let's hope it works too. If it doesn't, I have backup. So let's quit this. It's an older version. Okay, so let's try small. Open. And it crashed. Where did it crash? So the output contains one or more invalid keys, color primaries. Okay, so that's the same problem that we were having previously, so I probably did miss something. So let's go and take a look. It's saying that right here, when we say set up asset reader and writer, when we make the AV asset writer input, so the AV asset writer input with video, making it with video, and we're using video settings. Let's see what I had originally, first of all, before going around in circles. Yeah, so I did use video settings, and I did specify the color primaries key. So let's make sure that I got them all right. Color primaries. Oh, so I used color primaries instead of color properties. That was the problem before, actually. So, similar named things. So now if I change that to properties, the old version should have worked too. So, we could have done a two-step progression, but we still failed. So let's find out why we failed. So we failed with these video settings. That's cool. Let's put a breakpoint to see if there's any error that can help us. So let's take our small. So again, I'm using small because this computer is very old and cannot encode video, so we're just encoding one frame at a time. So cannot create file. The underlying error is we couldn't create a file. I'm guessing it's because we were not able to delete the last file. So let's actually check that that was written correctly. So if there is a file at output path, remove the item at path and do the error. So if I just delete this, maybe it will work. Maybe that was the reason why it wasn't working earlier too. Let's try it. So no, we still have an error. Cannot create file. Okay, so there's another error going on. And I don't believe it's in AV Foundation, but jump start. So it happened here, and this guy. Is it right here? I'm just gonna put breakpoints everywhere. Let's step through the code and figure out what's happening. So let's build and run one more time. Small. Oh my gosh. That open dialog needs to stop blanking out the window. So let's put this over to sign and hit return. Yeah, you see how it blanks out this whole part? How annoying.
It's an old computer.
I don't think it's the old computer part.
You're overworking it.
I'm overworking it. Okay, so we succeeded getting the tracks, so that's good. Then we are doing the file manager. We are checking if a file exists at output URL. And I'm doing /mp4. That's interesting. It should be .mp4. So it thinks that small resize is a folder rather than a file. So that means I mistyped something. And I mistyped it over an output URL. So I want a file URL with path. So I'm going to delete the path extension right here. I'm going to append the -resize and string by appending path component instead of path extension. Stupid errors are stupid.
It's probably the autocomplete. Like you would just tap, tap, tap.
And it was so slow. I didn't notice.
That you didn't.
I'm totally gonna blame it on the autocomplete. It's gonna make me feel better. I just want to continue. Encoding. That's good news. It's doing it. Look, it's moving.
Oh,
it's moving. So there were 2 errors of like copy paste errors, basically. Oh, look, it even made me a folder. Oh no, that's the project folder.
It's that one right there. Yeah.
But here's our resized video.
Cool.
In all its glory. Let's make it pink just to make sure.
Oh, like, so you pretty much just made the border more even.
Yeah. So basically, we moved from this, which had, for some reason, because it's like we're preparing to send it to like an old-fashioned TV that like crops out stuff automatically.
Yeah. That is a square TV.
So you have this letterboxing, and then we want to stretch it so it's ready for widescreen. So it is stretching it, but it is now centering it because it's not as wide as today's widescreens. It's just a little bit wider. So we actually do have this border right here. So at this point, I don't know, I went wrong there. But at this point, we have a working application, and we can prove that this works. Is there a pink color? Purple. Purple works.
No, there's no pink. You got to do like alpha and all that, right?
Alpha and all that.
Or you got to do like red, blue,
color
green.
with color.
Yeah, the color wheel stuff.
So let's try it with purple and see if that does something fantastic. I'm assuming it is going to do something fantastic. You could have done red.
Red is a color.
Red is a color too?
Yeah, they know what red is.
They know what orange is.
They know what red is, but not what pink is.
And look, glorious purple background.
It worked.
That is basically how our little video resizer app works. We needed this again to resize very quickly Wii videos. So as we did before, we can drag onto here and it will add it to the queue, and we can add it multiple times and trick out the system, and it will wait to encode because there's a queue. So we did all that hard stuff early, and it should automatically go to the next one and re-encode itself because it doesn't know any better.
Nice.
And then eventually we can add like a stop button to like cancel it and if we added too many. But yeah, this is a very useful tool for my workflow. So I'll probably be making it into a real app. But I hope you all enjoyed watching us remake it for you guys. And we hope to do more of these programming type videos in the future.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can keep the idea clean and concise so it doesn't quickly bore everyone too much. But yeah.
Leave comments so then we know how to improve it as well.
That will help a lot.
This is our first time live streaming, so we might,
Yeah, we're not too sure what we're doing.
Yeah, if there's any way we can improve on maybe the length of, of the video or how we should progress better.
I see people live streaming for like 4 hours straight, so I don't think our 3 hours is that big of a deal.
Yeah. But follow us, subscribe to our channel. We're definitely going to do a lot more videos like this in the future, especially for me. Like I mentioned before, I just started programming and I'm learning Swift. So it's only been about like 4 months. So everything that I'm seeing today is definitely very new to me. And for my own practice, we're definitely going to do similar projects like this just so I can, gain some experience in what it's like making apps. And since I am a beginner, there's going to be a lot of trial and error and a lot of debugging and stuff like that. And I think that's a good practice, right? And trying to figure out where the problem is and how to solve the problem. So, we'll keep you all posted. And if you are interested, we'll definitely do more videos like this. It might probably not be this long. It could be,
probably not.
It could be, we might figure out other projects are a lot shorter.
And easier to explain.
Easier to
follow. This was a fairly complicated one, but I figured a lot of people might have trouble with this, so they might actually like the fact that it's complicated. Yeah,
but for those who don't know programming or are interested in learning, you can all learn with me as I as I struggle along, you know.
Mm-hmm. So here's some links that you can follow us on. We don't have a nice clean YouTube URL, so just go to Twitter and grab that one if you want to. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and leave nice comments. Or leave bad comments.
So we know we
criticize.
can improve. Yeah.
Let us know what we can improve on, what we can do to make things better, and what you want to see. Like if there's an actual like little app idea, as Mochineko and me asked for, we might add image resizing functionality to this too, and it might be very easy to add. So we can show that process, and hopefully everyone can learn from this. And here the computer is warming up as the encoder is working in the background. So let's quit that. Anywho, bye everyone.
Bye. Thanks for listening and
Hope
watching.
You enjoyed. This series was originally live streamed, so we split it up into 30-minute episodes so it can be uploaded. Since it does take more planning to make this kind of content, we don't plan on producing it very often, but if you do enjoy it, please subscribe on YouTube or Twitch and let us know in the comments below or on Twitter. Thanks. Bye, Chan-chans.